The problem, I think, is sometimes people place so much emphasis, time, money, and resource on the wedding more than they do on the marriage. Because I think they think the marriage is like, it's a default. Eh. Oh, I'm married. I don't have to work for it. It's a done deal. Right. Versus a wedding, I have to plan it. I have to make sure that day is perfect because that is one day in your life that will never happen again. The marriage is one lifetime that should never happen again. Right? Yet, and that is a lifetime that you need to work on, that you need to give enough focus and attention on versus a wedding which is one day of your entire life. Yes, one day of your entire life you should put emphasis on, but more so put emphasis on your lifetime with that person. So of all the different things I have thoughts about in terms of weddings and marriages, these are some of the thoughts I have about weddings. Number one, why do brides spend hundreds of thousands of pesos on wedding gowns so they'll only wear once? It doesn't make sense to me. You'll only wear it once. Honestly, I think, especially, now listen, if you're coming from a family or your family has a lot of money and you can afford it and throw away money, fine. But what if maybe you or your husband are not in the super rich class? Why force yourselves to buy a gown over 100 plus thousand for one day when that money could go somewhere else more important for your kids' education, for your house, for your daily living? There's a lot of places where it can go. Not just the wedding gown, also the wedding cake. A wedding cake that you spend, I don't know how much wedding cakes are now. How much are they? 50, 100,000? I don't know. A wedding cake that you can't even eat. Majority of that cake is not even edible. There's a small portion where you slice it to eat it. The rest is not edible. And you spend, how much you spend and it doesn't make sense to me. And you buy it. I mean, yes, I understand yeah, but it's one day, it's special. Yes, so is your marriage. And I'd rather you put that money into your marriage than your wedding. And honestly, because of the fact that I know that most people can't afford the 1 million, 2 million peso weddings. And yet they force themselves, some people go into debt just to be able to give that wedding of the girl's dream. Instead of focusing on giving the girl her dream wedding, give her her dream marriage because that's more important. Wedding is important, but I think we create too much importance to it that we sacrifice so much to be able to give a wedding that's one day in an entire lifetime of being together. The whole wedding is a show for others. It is not even for you. It is to show your guests. Most weddings aren't even intimate anymore. Most people don't even know half the guests. Yeah, they don't even know half the guests that are there. Nor do they even care. The truth is, weddings are a show now. It lost the real meaning of what it meant to have a union. I think women place more importance to weddings than men do. I think men do it for their women to satisfy their women. But I think the woman, honestly, and people would contradict me on this, for sure. And I'd like to hear people's opinion on it. But I just believe that maybe the woman should place more emphasis on the marriage, on what the guy is willing to commit for the marriage than what they're willing to commit for the wedding. Because the wedding is more monetary. What can the guy afford? Yeah. But there are some men that maybe they're just starting off in life and they can't afford the big wedding, but they'll give you the lifetime commitment that you want. They'll work hard for you, for your kids, for your family, to make sure your kids have an education, you have a roof over your head, all of that. But maybe they can't provide for the wedding now. But putting that pressure on them, I don't know. I don't know about that. So it's something to think about. If the guy's family or the guy can afford it, then by all means, great. But even when they can, don't ever forget the importance of the marriage beyond the wedding. Not to just focus on the wedding, but to focus on the marriage. And it's hard to focus on a lifetime. Eh. It's easier to focus on one day, right? Because it's a singular point. Because a lifetime is something you work on every day, and that's harder to do. But that's the one that you need to work on. Both of you, the man and the woman. I think everyone wants to have a happy marriage. Oh, that's obvious, right? But The more important thing for me is I think women have to ask themselves, why is the grand wedding so important? If the guy's family can afford it, if they can afford it, why not? But if it means that your partner or you will have to go into debt to spend all your savings that could be used for the marriage just to have a grand wedding to satisfy that Cinderella dream of a wedding, I think there's misplaced priorities that have to be thought about. And that's a question I like to pose to people because I'm not even sure I know the answer to that, is what's the importance of a grand wedding? But these are just my opinions. I just think that at the end of the day, maybe there's misplaced importance in the wedding and the neglect or subconsciously forgetting about the more important factor, which is the lifetime marriage. So I'd like to pose that question to all the viewers out there. I think the question I have personally, and out of my own curiosity, is why is a grand wedding so important that you spend all your time, resource, and money to make it happen? I'd really like to know. So if you guys can comment on this, I'd love to hear from all of you.